How about them tops, son?
All day, SEC boys. SEC, they supposed to be SEC. Crazy all day, baby.
You're listening to the Red Out Podcast.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome in to another Red Out Podcast. I think Jared's already in. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good. How's it going, man?
Good. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this with all your buddies, all that good stuff. Appreciate your support out there, listeners. First off, I guess, winners and losers, the southern part of some of the U.S.
Honestly, like half of the country.
Yeah, exactly. So we're experiencing winter weather, which is not anything unusual because for whatever reason, like this part of the country doesn't get winter weather till after the groundhog. I mean, that's how it always seems to me.
It's all his fault. I mean,
It
he was
is.
the one that predicted all of this. Like, yeah.
Well, he's only right like 33% of the time.
He
Which
still
is
needs
so
to
funny.
be held accountable.
He
Punxsutawney
should.
Field needs to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Yes. So some of like Kentucky is ready for this. We weren't, that shocked or anything or unprepared, but Texas, on the other hand, was completely unprepared. If you've heard of the news, they've got blackouts. They've got rolling blackouts because from what I heard, the turbines were freezing up or something. I can neither confirm nor deny that. Salt trucks are running, but they don't have enough salt. I mean, it's just, this was weather they were not ready for. And I literally heard one of our favorite weathermen, Jude Redfield, Western alum, called the weather system moving through a Texas hooker. And he called it a meteorological term. And I thought that was the greatest thing. I was like, really? It's a Texas hooker, really? I was like, there's no other way to describe that. Okay. But we got probably locally, I think we got 3 inches of snow. I mean, last week, we were concerned, but it was really basically ice. And it was just miserable. I mean, that ice is awful. Then we got 3 inches of snow Sunday, Monday-ish. And then we're supposed to get more snow tonight. We're supposed to get between 3 and 6 more inches tonight.
Yeah, it's already snowing where I live at.
We got flurries right now. But I will shout out one of my neighbors. He's got a bigger John Deere tractor, and he cleared my driveway today. So appreciate that.
That's what good neighbors do. That's great.
That was he. The other day, my wife tried to pull her little Toyota 99 Toyota Tacoma in the driveway, and it just wasn't taking it on one hill. So our driveway kind of does a little circle thing in the front. So she went to the other part of the driveway, got up it just fine. But I guess he saw that, and so he cleared that part. And I was shoveling the driveway today, or the sidewalk, and he pulled up. So I was like, heck yeah, I'll move my truck. You can go right to town. You can just take care of all of it if you want to. But he did, and I was appreciative. Appreciate that. But yeah, so we're all experiencing this very cold weather here. I hope you all are safe and happy. Jared, do you have any winners or losers?
I mean, yeah, I was just going to put more of an emphasis as Texas as being the main loser because literally every single county in Texas was under a winter storm warning. And I think that's the first time this ever happened. Like all the way down to like Brownsville and Corpus Christi.
Oh my gosh.
Snow. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even close to Mexico, I'm sure there were parts of Mexico that ended up getting it too. I mean, it's just so wild.
But
I
wild.
mean, it does make me a little concerned for this weekend, though. There was someone in the WKU basketball group on Facebook that lives over towards UNT's campus, and he said that they're without power, water, and a bunch of other stuff, and that all the hotels are booked up because people don't have any of those things. So they're going to hotels to try to just have necessities. So, I mean, they've already pushed the series back to Saturday and Sunday instead of Friday and Saturday. I don't know.
That was my next point.
Yeah, I don't know if that's enough time for them to get everything fixed down there, but I really hope it is because, I mean, obviously everyone wants to see this big Conference USA matchup. But, I mean, obviously safety first, and I hope that Texas is able to thaw out pretty soon.
Well, and that was one of my things. Make sure I got this down. That was one of my concerns was that they were going to postpone this because of the weather. So, yeah. Mr. Hilltopper's writing in said 74% of the USA has snow on the ground, which is mind-boggling, and it's colder in Texas than Alaska.
Yeah.
That is
I mean, same for
crazy
here
to
too,
me.
probably.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully in Franklin, I mean, we still had a ton of sleet and ice first, and that's what was kind of like the base of everything. And then we got maybe like 2 inches of snow, and that's before the system that's moving in tonight. So there's no telling what I'll wake up to tomorrow morning. I was so mad. I finally got my car de-iced and thawed out, and it looked so nice yesterday. And then, of course, now it doesn't even look like I did anything to it. So, I mean, thankfully, I haven't had to go to work. Like my boss, she's been really understanding. Like I'm literally the person that lives the furthest away from where I work at. So she's like, dude, don't risk your life. It's okay. We got it. So I
Yeah.
mean, that has been nice. But I mean, yeah, I've just been kind of enjoyed being snowed in, just playing RuneScape all the time.
I was going to say, yeah, you definitely hitting that RuneScape. That was, but like I said, that was one of my concerns with this weekend because most of the time everything's just getting postponed. And
because
we
of COVID,
really
because
need
it's so
this
much weather.
game. We really need this game for the guys to kind of finish out strong in the in Conference USA tournament, so we can go to the big dance. Hopefully. Sorry, I was just looking at a stat for Western on the ESPN page. They've got this new little thing that says tournament history. I haven't seen this. Have you?
I
You
haven't really
scroll
looked.
down past the news part. It's talking about the 2021 recruits and yada, yada, yada. And then it says tournament history. Final Fours won. This is Western, which is true. Tournament record 19-24. Championship seasons none. Tournament appearances 23. I thought our Final Fours got pulled. Or our
Well,
Final Four.
I mean, technically, it still shows that we were in it, but as far as like it's counting in like a bunch of different stats and stuff, I mean, I don't think it does. I think that part was vacated, at least to my
Okay.
knowledge. I mean, they still. It's been long enough that I think that they could probably appeal that if Western really wanted to. I know that that's kind of like a random back burner thing, but they could probably get rid of the asterisk. And now that college players can actually do some stuff more with agents and stuff, they should look into that.
I agree, because like legally speaking, if you're convicted of a crime and then like say down the road they, for instance, don't do this because I'm not a lawyer nor am I claimed to be, like if you get in trouble for selling weed or something and then they legalize it down the road and you're in jail for it, I'm pretty sure you can appeal it and then they'll let you out. So can't we do that for Western's Final Four thing?
I mean, I think so. I mean, it's been 50 years. So there's going to be an article on that. Don't let me forget to do an article on that because that is such a big deal that the NCAA, the Final Four run was 50 years ago this year.
Yes. Don't forget to do an article on that. But anyway, so the official press release for the Western game being postponed, it says the Lady Tops will now host North Texas at 4 p.m. Central Saturday and 5 p.m. Central Sunday in EA Diddle Arena. If you had tickets for Friday, they go to Sunday now. Both Lady Topper games will stream online at conferenceusa.tv. So please support the Lady Tops. This is the next part that I'm really kind of having an issue with, but the Hilltoppers will now visit the Mean Green at 4 p.m. Central Saturday. So both games happen at the same time.
That's always
Also, 1 p.m. Central Sunday in Denton, Texas. Both of those games will stream on CBS Sports Network or CBS Sports Network on Facebook Watch. So it's a Facebook game.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we got some good announcers for that game because I'll get a headache. Yes, Mr. Hilltopper says, who do we think will be back next year?
Oof, that's hard to tell right now.
With no injuries.
I definitely feel like Anderson should come back. I mean, I hope he would, just for the fact that I feel like if he tried to go pro now, he might be overseas or something. But if he sticks around for another year with the way that he's done this year, like building on top of what he's done this season, I think he could maybe be like NBA potential if he's able to develop his defense a little more and maybe his shot. I think that he could definitely. He has the athleticism for it, 100%.
Okay, so I just pulled up the roster so I could get everybody. I think Bassey's gone. I think that's just
same.
to get me. He's having a good year. Everything's going well. Yeah. Knock on wood. Hope everything's going well. And honestly, I'd like to see him go. I mean,
Go eat, big fella.
yeah, completely hope he does well. Hope he goes to the league, succeeds, makes a bunch of money, starts a car dealership.
Courtney Lee can't retire until we get another Hilltopper in the NBA. That's why he's still around. So I mean, he's got to go release him from his career, which was a great career, by the way. Courtney Lee, whenever he does retire, I mean, by far the best pro topper we've had in the modern era.
Well, basketball, yes.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean in basketball.
Yes, basketball pro top. Yeah, I completely agree. Let's. I'm going to reword this question for you, Mr. Hilltopper. Who do we think's not going to go to the league? I don't think Carson Williams will. He may go overseas.
Hollingsworth, I don't even know about Hollingsworth because, I mean, he's still a great scorer, but, I mean, his ball handling, if he's going to be in the NBA, I mean, he's got to work on that a ton.
Yeah.
No offense to him. Because, I mean, we saw how he was when he was kind of thrown into being a point guard, and it wasn't very good. And sometimes he make passes now as a senior. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? But I mean, I know that the NBA likes those scorers. I mean, that maybe could be something that he could work on. But even if he were to go, he'd probably be like undrafted.
Yeah, I agree. Hollingsworth, what do you think? Or Cooper? I mean, sorry. Let's talk about Cooper.
No.
Yeah, I agree. I like Kenny Cooper. I think he's got some improvement, just like you said. So he may go. What do you think? Maybe G League, Europe.
I don't know about that. I mean, hasn't really shown that much to me to be professional, like as far as that kind of stuff goes. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what Williams does. I mean, he could maybe be sort of like a Justin Johnson and be playing overseas somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I won't say any of these guys can't play overseas. I'm sorry, I'm looking up something real quick because this cracks me up because I could definitely see this.
I mean, you never know though, because I mean, Ben Lawson. I mean, he was good, but he was never like one of those really high ceiling, reliable players that we had. I mean, he had flashes of greatness in college. Even his senior year was kind of a disappointment, but he's been overseas in Japan right now, and he has been balling out. I mean, I think they're making like animes of him and all this other crazy stuff. I mean, he's like a legend in Japan, and he's beefed up a bunch too. He put on a ton of muscle, which he needed that. And I mean, he's been doing really good over there. So, I mean, you never know.
Yeah. I was looking up the song and I cannot find it. I wish I had like recorded it or something. Of the when the Ball brothers, or not the brothers, but when one of the Ball young men, what's his name? It's not Lonzo, it's the other one, I think.
LaMelo.
Yeah, LaMelo, I think. When he went to play for Lithuania for a little bit. Do you remember that? Have you heard that song?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember the song, but I remember him going over there.
Yeah, it's this very awful, half-broken English song, and this guy's like, "Welcome to Lithuania, welcome to Lithuania." I'm like, oh my god! But he sang it like live on the radio or on the air, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. Do you think? Okay, Mr. Hilltopper brings up a point. He thinks Cooper's going to be told to go play elsewhere. I don't know. Do you think he's going to try and grad transfer out?
Well, I mean, it just depends on how long he wants to play. I mean, he could just graduate and ride off to the sunset. I mean, he's already a fifth year guy, anyways.
Yeah.
Just depends on what degree he's doing, and if he needs that extra year, I mean, he could maybe go somewhere else or stick with the team. I don't know, but I mean, I would think with McKnight stepping up and also getting Zion Harmon, that's kind of going to eat away his playing time.
I do too. I think he's going to eventually have to transfer out. I like Carson Williams. He's a very fun player to watch. I just don't know his draft stock. You know what I'm saying?
He's got a high motor though. I mean, he plays
He does.
center for us sometimes, and he's like 6'5", and he's still going up and getting those rebounds over
I like
against
him.
like 6'10" guys. I mean, he's got a lot of good fight in him. So I mean, and he's got a shot too. Like he
He's
would probably
rough.
be maybe like a wing player. That
Yeah.
could maybe go into the paint some, maybe like a stretch four. I don't know. It'd be really interesting to see how he would fit in on an NBA team. I mean, obviously his height is something that would be brought up. He'd likely be able to move positions. So,
See, I like Carson as a. Would you quit? I like Carson playing a 5, and I like Bassey playing like a 4 because it kind of opens him up because they can't double Bassey. And I think Williams does a really good job of playing aggressively. I mean, he's got what 6 inches on under Bassey. So I think he could do a lot better job of being rough and under the I don't know. I would like to see him go pro, but
I mean, it's maybe overseas. I mean, like Justin Johnson, because I think that they're very, very similar players. Except Williams, he has a little bit better of a shot than Justin does. I mean, he was able to start shooting threes like his senior year and did really good. But I mean, that is something that helps Carson a lot, is being a good 3-point shooter and being able to play inside the paint like that. But I mean, of course, NBA, they really want size, and if you're just kind of like 6'5" and playing the paint, I don't know where you would really fit in the NBA. But I mean, overseas, I mean, go for it. I mean, I know Justin Johnson's been doing pretty solid. I know he had an injury. I don't know if he's playing right now, but he did pretty good in Italy.
Do we really? Oh my gosh. I just saw this. I did not make the connection. Freshman guard, 6 foot from Bowling Green, Kentucky, Noah Stansberry.
Yeah, they were chanting for him to play this past
We've got
weekend.
a Brad Calipari.
Yep.
Please, for the love of God, get a tattoo that says "Earn Not Given," please. Which is the greatest thing ever that I heard about. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Don't tell me that crap. Mm-hmm. First off, in this life, if you're going to succeed, you have to know people.
That's true. 100%.
Connections are key. Yes, yeah. Music, employment. I mean, come on, don't give me that. But I do think we do have some good guys that are going to be able to step up. I think Cozart is going to be good. He's not going to be a Charles Bassey, but he's going to have some big shoes to fill. I just hope people do not put the pressure on him that the expectations of Charles Bassey, if that makes sense.
Well, I don't think it'll be on him, but more like the Jamarion Sharp that's coming in from Hopkinsville and from that top junior college or whatever. He's like the top junior college player. He's 7'3", has like a 7'9" wingspan. This dude is big. And I mean, that's instantly going to create almost maybe more of a presence in the paint than what Bassey has done this year, just for his sheer size. But I mean, he had a triple-double a few weeks ago, and it was like at least 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 blocks or something like that.
Nice.
So he's putting up some really good stats, and there's a lot of people looking at him saying that he's a pro-caliber player. So being able to add him, plus Zion Harmon and Davion McKnight next season, that's going to be good. I'm already looking forward to it a lot. So even if we do lose Bassey, like, I mean, it's sort of like the thank you for your time here. Go eat now. Go to the NBA and be a good player in the NBA, and we'll be able to have we'll have the next lineage, which will be Jamarion Sharp. I hope so. That's going to be really fun.
I've said that all along. I know Charles has had Mr. Bassey has had some issues, with injuries and draft stock not being where it was supposed to be. But, I think this year is his year. I think he's going to do well. How high do you think he goes in the draft?
I would, well, I mean, I would probably say late first, maybe early second. I mean, unless he just absolutely goes crazy. Well, this would be the biggest thing. All right, here will be the biggest thing that will decide Bassey's draft stock. If he
Okay.
gets in the NCAA tournament and
Okay.
plays well, that is going to elevate his draft stock maybe a solid 10 spots. If he's able to actually be on a big stage like the NCAA tournament, say we play as a 12 seed against, I don't know, some random Power 5 school that's always overrated, and we demolish them, and that's due to Charles Bassey. That's when his draft stock is going to go crazy. But, I mean, even if we don't make the tournament this year, I think he's done enough this season with leading the nation in blocks and dunks and just being on all these different watch lists. And he's basically won Conference USA Player of the Year at this point. So, I mean, he's done so many incredible things already that I think that it's moved his draft stock up a bunch.
I do too. And I mean, even with him throwing up threes every now and then, it kind of shows that he's able to do that, which also helps his draft stock.
Yes.
So let me go to some other news real quick, and then we'll talk about basketball a little bit. WKU Soccer's canceled their game with Xavier due to weather, which was yesterday. Sorry.
I couldn't imagine playing soccer in these conditions.
I can't imagine playing golf in these conditions, and the men's and women's golf have wrapped up their, quote, spring openers.
See,
Like,
this weather is solely football weather. Only football weather.
Green Bay Packer weather, maybe.
Yeah.
Lambeau Field, Buffalo Bills Field, with 4 foot of snow.
Of course, one of my favorite snow games all the time, even though I didn't get to witness it like as a fan then, but was when the Thanksgiving Day Cowboys versus Dolphins.
Oh my
and
gosh.
the Cowboys fumbled the ball and the Dolphins ended up winning because of the snow. That was beautiful.
Which, by the way, that the Dolphins had to have like industrial heaters on their sideline.
Oh,
There was
absolutely.
no snow anywhere near their sideline because it melted away. So is Old Dominion just completely postponing everything?
No, they played basketball this year.
The reason I ask is because on the 14th and 15th, women's volleyball was supposed to play them, and they ended up postponing both of those games.
Well, I mean, it could be another COVID issue. It's just kind of hard to tell. I mean,
Either they all got COVID or they're
just
just scared of COVID. Which, I mean, I'm not saying not to be careful.
Well,
I'm just saying it seems like
Old
they're over.
Old Dominion's bread and butter is their basketball team. That's what they eat and breathe over there, and they've still been doing really good this year. They're number 2 in Conference USA, so as long as they still have that, that's all they really care about.
Yeah, I was going to say. So, like I said, soccer with Xavier. I guess they were supposed to play today. They canceled it yesterday. I'm sorry. Then, of course, softball's got a tournament against Kinshaw State coming up this weekend. Baseball's going to be playing North Dakota State, which I cannot imagine that's going to go well.
Yeah.
And women's basketball, they did okay. So it's supposed to be Saturday, Sunday games, but even on the WKU sports calendar, they haven't updated it.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. I know they haven't been in their offices because, I mean, I know that Bowling Green has still had a ton of snow and ice. I've seen the videos of people sledding on campus and just acting dumb in the streets. I mean, just typical college behavior. I mean, good old days.
Yeah, just straight down. It's not called Hospital Hill. What is that right there in front of Cherry?
Van Meter.
Well, they used to sled down the front of Cherry right there when they'd close.
Oh yeah, people still do that. I can't remember what it's called now.
Oh yeah, I cannot think of what the technical name of it is. Back home, they used to call it. They'd go sledding at Hospital Hill because that's where the hospital was in Scottsville.
Yeah,
but they moved it. Anyway, haunted place you want to go see? The hospital.
I've been there.
You've been there?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, that place! I've never been in. I have been in. When it was an actually functioning hospital, but I was like 6 years old. So I don't
I
even.
went there for Halloween, and this was actually really funny / terrible. Is that there was one person? See, stuff like that doesn't scare me. I'll go ahead and say that. But I was with a bunch of people in high school, and they were scared or whatever. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. But there was one guy. He had like this organ, and he was holding it. He's like, "Does anybody want it?" or something like that, just trying to mess with it. It's like, "Yeah, I'll touch it." and he's just like, "Come over here and touch it, then." And then I touched it, and it's like really nasty and slimy. He's like out of character. He's like, "Hey, dude, might need to wash your hands. This is a cow liver." I'm like, okay. So I have cow blood on my hands, and as I go through the rest of the haunted thing, whenever someone jumps out to scare me, I give them a high five. So that's probably horrible. I was in high school, but
Well,
that's
I will
me
say
at haunted houses.
the freakiest thing for me, of course, when I was in high school, we went to they had what's called a hell house at Victory Hill,
Yeah.
and which they probably still do it, but anyway. Victory Hill did one, and of course I had my Letterman jacket on, and I wasn't thinking about it. But at one point, the devil walks up to me, and he's like, "I know your sins too, Devin." And I was like, "Oh shit! How does he know my name?"
See, that's what happens when you do stuff like that in a small town, though, because I knew the volunteers at the Octagon Hall in Franklin. It was people like high school kids that would volunteer for it. So when I would go through the tours, like they would know me by name, and I'm just like, "Nope, I don't like this."
I know. I was
don't like this.
But when he said that to me, I was like, "Who was that? You know, how did he know my name?" And then all this stuff's going through
And
my
of
head.
course, like they're wearing, they're all
I had
wearing
my letter
masks, so
jacket
I mean,
on.
you don't know.
Well, he was painted up. He didn't really have a mask on, but I'm like, I don't even know who. Of course, it was dark. You know, 1,000 different things. No idea who he was. So anyway, women's basketball. Western's going to be playing North Texas. Definitely a must-win game for Western. We are 5 games out, 5 games back from being first in Conference USA East. Losing the middle in some of those games did not help us whatsoever.
This past weekend was a better sign of hope, though. I think that they've definitely started to get a lot better on the latter part of the season. I know not having Raneem at the beginning was really a struggle, but now that she's with the team, she's been stepping up a ton, obviously getting a bunch of points and rebounds. So, I mean, who knows what happens conference tournament time? I mean, I really hope that they can make a run.
I do too. I don't think they will. I'm sorry. Being a realist, I don't see it happening.
And you never know, though. I mean, March Madness, they call it that for a reason. Like, you remember when MTSU was like an at-large consideration in men's basketball and were so good, almost nationally ranked, and they lost to Southern Miss in the first round and didn't even make the tournaments. I laugh as I say that because it's so funny. Because it's middle. But, I mean, you never know. Like, I don't trust our team in a conference tournament this year, ever. I can never. Unless it's Ray Harper, I cannot trust a team in the conference tournament because I don't know what it was about that man. Like, he took a team that was under 500 overall on the year into the big dance just by winning the conference tournament. Which, I mean, obviously, which is terrible because you're like literally number 64 out of all 64 teams in the field. But, I mean, still getting in the tournament, that's what we really care about. And as talented as this team is, I hope they do. But, yeah, I mean, you never know.
I would hope so at least for the girls. I'd like to see them do that, but I don't know. It's going to be a rough game this weekend with North Texas. 4:00 Central Saturday, and I think 5:00 for the North Texas game on Sunday. And of course, both of those are at Diddle. So if you would like to go, make sure to support the Lady Tops. Go watch them play. If you can't go or you don't feel comfortable, you can watch it on conferenceusa.tv online. I don't know if they have an app or anything to watch it on like Apple TV or Fire Stick or anything like that, but I'm sure there's some way you could do it. Just figure it out. Anyway, like I said, it's going to be a tough game. They've got North Texas this weekend. And then, let's see, 26th. So next weekend, they've got FIU. And then the following weekend, well, basically following a week, They've got ODU, maybe, unless they postpone it again.
Yeah, we'll see.
And then it's going to be conference play. So hopefully they'll be just high enough they can get in conference play. If they do that, I don't, it's one of those you just don't know what they're going to do. Will they take the top of each side and just let them play? Or are they going to do the pod thing again? I haven't heard anything, so I don't know.
I still don't know, man. I haven't really looked it up to see if there's a conference tournament. I mean, and also in other news that I saw is, I mean, they do this anyways, but the conferences are fully able to decide of who they want to send to the NCAA tournament. I mean, they could either choose like a conference tournament winner, which is usually who it is, or they could just end up taking the regular season winner. So that could be big just in case if we were to win the Conference USA regular season and say we lose in the tournament with some fluke and say someone like Louisiana Tech ends up getting it. If Conference USA officials were like, I mean, La Tech is pretty good. They got hot at the end of the year, but we know Western Kentucky is going to do better than tournament. They technically could choose Western to be the representative for the NCAA tournament. And I would love to see what kind of controversy that would cause if they actually ended up taking someone other than the conference tournament winner. But I mean, it never happens. So I hope that we would never be in a situation. I would love for us to just win outright, both of them. But
we need to. But
yeah.
But I would not want to leave it up to the Conference USA people to say, like you're saying, oh well, Western did it good, blah blah blah, because for whatever reason, we never do well when people are supposed to pick. Does that make sense? Like, we're not liked enough, and I never figured that out. Why we don't get.
You look at the schedules blindly, and you would see more quadrant one wins for us, and also just stronger strength of schedule as well. And I mean, they do have 10 wins in conference right now. They do have the highest amount of wins in CUSA. Louisiana Tech does, but it's still you never want to leave it in their hands because it's not going to end well.
No, I would rather win and be able to say that we made it on our own without them having to do that. Let me look up a text real quick. Jake, not Jake Gray, Jake Keith, that we both started the podcast with, and I were both talking about Western the other day.
He needs to come back on to convince him.
Yeah, I need to. He was complaining that the latest bracket projections, this is him, and some still don't have WKU as the auto bid out of Conference USA. And it makes me think they aren't watching or paying attention at all. And the net rankings are blah, blah, blah. Marshall and North Texas are higher than WKU, even though they have played no one outside of conference.
Yeah.
So that makes me worry.
The net rankings are terrible. Like, I don't know why the World Marshall is one of the highest teams in CUSA for the net rankings. I know that they've had decent success and they've won by good margins, a lot of their wins. But still, though, I mean, we swept them. And they're like in the middle, maybe like third or fourth place of the East right now. So they're not even one of like the top teams in Conference USA. So that just doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like North Texas, I understand, but Marshall, no, forget that.
No. And okay, is this just me or does Marshall always kind of get a little favoritism?
Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
I feel like that. Maybe that's just me, but I just feel that way. I just feel like they get a little more favoritism on some things, and it's like they're the oldest child, and or the youngest or whatever you want to call them. But anyway, so
we're technically Go ahead.
Well, I guess depending on how you look at it, yeah, we would be the youngest. I was gonna say UAB's football, but. Because they were there and then they weren't there and then they're back. But anyway, so Western is top of Conference USA standings in the East. And Old Dominion is one game back. So we definitely need to get this win against North Texas. We got to get these. And luckily, there was a rumor going around about Bassie being suspended for some Rice BS. that was going on during that game. But that is not going to worry. That's not going to worry us any because Stan says he's not going to be suspended for that. So
Yeah, I think it was in like something from the Bowling Green Daily News. They were the ones that said that him and Anderson both. Because what happened is it was just completely dumb to begin with. It was at the end of the second game where it was Colin Milton. He went in for a layup, and the game was basically over at that point. But he still wanted to get some points, and there's like 8 seconds left, and that's technically. I say this with air quotations. Technically, one of the unwritten rules of college basketball and pros too is you don't run up the score when you've already
nope.
got a big lead in the late seconds because it just is kind of disgraceful. So one of Rice's players kind of shoved Milton after he did that. And of course, I do respect Anderson and Bassey both. They stuck up for their freshman and their teammate and were like, hey, don't push him around like that, and kind of got into altercation with it. But they were still kind of dumb and got off of the bench area and went out there, which is a violation. It's a bad violation. So they got thrown out of the game. But I don't think that they will be facing any other repercussions than that. Because I mean, the thing is that was the whole thing that started the Kansas brawl from last year. I'm sure everyone remembers that, where they were trying to go score at the last second, and then DeSosa, I think, was the one that blocked the shot and then knocked that guy over, and then stood over him, and then all hell broke loose. So it's just completely avoidable. Like, just run the ball out, take a turnover. I don't really care if it's going to cause you to possibly lose someone to a suspension because of tempers flaring. It's not worth it. It's never worth it. Just dribble the ball out.
It's I understand why the freshmen wanted to get some points. I get that, but it's kind of like an unwritten sportsmanship thing, like you were saying. Like even in football, it's the same way. If you're up, 21 or whatever. This is what I always liked about Alabama. When Western played Alabama, when Alabama went up 3 touchdowns against us, they put in like third, fourth string, whatever. People in the crowd, whoever. They let them play against Western. But whenever Western would score again, here came first string back out. Then they'd march down the field, score, then the other people would go back in. And it was like, okay. It's like fighting with little brother, and you're like, all right, that kind of hurt. Pop. All right, cry it out. You're okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're in the big leagues. You can't do that. But we got North Texas on the 20th and 21st, 4 o'clock Central on Saturday, and then what did I say? 1 o'clock the next day. But anyway, check those out. CBS Sports Network, I'm sorry, on Facebook Watch for that game. Then we got FIU coming up on the 26th, 27th, and then ODU on the 5th and 6th. We got to beat ODU. FIU is going to be a good warm-up game for that because FIU is 8 games out. I don't know how they managed that.
They're one of the worst teams in the conference, but we can't fall asleep against them at all. We got to win out, honestly. But see, there's a lot riding on the line this weekend with just the top 4 teams in Conference USA. Because if you think about it, we're playing North Texas and UAB is playing Old Dominion. So what could easily happen if we were to sweep North Texas and UAB sweep Old Dominion? Then we'll get a bigger lead in the East while the UAB goes back up to first in the West side. But opposite of that, say we get swept and Old Dominion sweeps UAB, then Old Dominion is suddenly at the top of the East, and North Texas is widening their lead for first place in the West. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with all of this. We could have completely new teams leading both sides of the conference at the end of this, depending on how well everyone plays. I mean, I think it'll be a bunch of split games this week. Last week was all sweeps, like completely. I put this in my State of USA, it's a USA article. Like, it was all sweeps last week, but I don't think that's going to be the case this year, just for those 2 matchups alone. But it's a lot of stakes this weekend, and it'll be good to see how well this turns out. Hopefully, at least split for us. I mean, maybe a sweep but I wouldn't sleep on North Texas at all. I mean, I know that Hollingsworth is going to be mad after all the trash that North Texas fans have given him with those missed free throws. I know that's going to be on his mind. I hope he plays well, but we still need to win. I would love at least one of these games. If we blow a game to North Texas, so be it. But there's one of the best teams in the conference. I can live with that. But FIU, we got to win, and even Old Dominion. I know they've given us heck before, but we really need to try to win that series too. We need to get as many wins as we can before a conference tournament.
We need to easily win these next 6 games. 3 teams.
I mean, we're capable of winning them, but will we? I don't know.
I think we're going to drop 1. I think you'll drop 1 against North Texas.
Maybe.
That's the only one I think we can drop. We got to beat ODU straight up. Of course, like we were just saying, in the East, Western's on top with Old Dominion 1 game back. In the West, North Texas, UAB, and Louisiana Tech are all in first. I don't know how that worked out.
Well, I mean, technically, Louisiana Tech has more wins, but North Texas has less losses, so that's why they're at the top. And, I mean, the fact that Louisiana Tech swept UAB, that was something I saw coming. Like, you can go back a couple of weeks and see my State of Conference USA articles. Like, Louisiana Tech, I mean, they split with us. They're a really strong team. I think people have been sleeping on them a lot. And I said that before the North Texas and UAB matchup, said if they end up winning those games, and they would be up top of the conference. And sure enough, they split against North Texas, and they swept UAB. So now they're in contention for it as well. So, I mean, you never know.
Yeah. So is it a possibility that Louisiana Tech takes the conference, takes the conference and goes to the tournament over Western?
Yeah, I think it's very possible. I mean, if you look at the amount of wins that they have, I mean, they do have a lot of wins, but I mean, it obviously comes down to like conference tournament stuff. I mean, we would be playing them a third time, and usually that hasn't worked in our favor in the past 5 years of being in Conference USA. Like, especially against Marshall, like we swept them the year that they won the conference tournament. So prior to them beating us in the tournament, we played them the third time and lost the third time, which of course is the most important one.
Yeah. So Western plays you in North Texas on the 20th, hopefully, and the 21st. I mean, as long as this weather doesn't crush them again, which I don't know if they've got any snow yet out of that Texas hooker. Thanks, Judah.
Well, I mean, it's still a hot mess even before the system going through right now. I mean, there's hotels that are flooded because of frozen pipes that bursted. I mean, people are without electricity. I mean, it's just a hot mess. I mean, there's people having to wait hours just to get food down there in some parts. So I really hope that places like the Red Cross, maybe like Samaritan's Purse, places like that help with different disaster relief are able to go help them.
I concur. Completely agree. May not like North Texas or some of the other Texas schools, but, you hate to see this kind of thing happen to them. And, in the long run, you got to set basketball aside and, think of the betterment of our fellow man until they step on the basketball or football field, and then game's off. But
there goes the civility. No more civility.
That's right. No civility. So Western plays them. Trying to think of something for our last little thing here tonight because I really didn't prepare for it. Hope your phone doesn't die, Mr. Hilltopper. Hopefully you'll make it home before that happens. But anyway, so what's your favorite haunted place you've been to, Jared?
Favorite haunted place? Man, there's a ton. Like, I do love going to different spooky places when I travel somewhere. Like, I know in Savannah, Georgia, they have it's considered one of the most haunted towns in America. And It's just such a eerie feeling. Like, I don't know if it's like all of the Spanish moss everywhere and just kind of like the old Victorian style architecture or what. But I mean, I have to stay a little biased. I have to say the Octagon Hall in Franklin, because it's still considered one of the most haunted locations in America. And it's literally like 10 miles away from where I live at. And I mean, Bill Bird, the guy that runs it, I mean, it's still such a cool thing to have that kind of history here in your own town. And it's spooky too. Like, I'll never forget being a young kid doing the haunted tours. I think it was one of the first time they had opened them up to the public and was letting tours go on at night around Halloween in October. That was one of my favorite traditions that I always had with different friends and family, was going on those tours. And it was pretty scary. I mean, I've seen some weird stuff that I don't think was like done intentionally to scare somebody. So it's a really weird vibe in there for sure. And of course, like Van Meter, I have to say it too. Like the ghost hunters, the ones that were on sci-fi for so many years, like Jason Hawes and all of those guys, they went to Western's campus in I think probably like 2010, 2011, somewhere around there, and went to Potter and Van Meter and all these other campus buildings that are haunted. And I mean, Van Meter, I never had anything weird or felt weird. Like even sometimes when I'd be like in the green room by myself or whatever, like it felt a little weird. Just, but it was only felt weird, I think, just because of the fact that it's technically a haunted place or whatever. But I mean, yeah, I mean, Western is a haunted campus, and the Octagon Hall. I mean, it's right down the road, so I'll be partial and support my local spooky places.
So, okay, when you go into a Van Meter or one of those places like that, do you think of it being haunted, or are you just going into the place? Like, think of the first time you went in Van Meter.
Oh man, like I can't remember the first time I went in there, but once I learned like all the history and stuff before I was a student at Western, like I knew about all the different haunted places and stuff, and I would go in there and stuff like for some rehearsals or sound checks or whatever we'd be doing before like the Prism concert or Holiday Pops or something like that. And it's in the back of your mind. Like say you might be looking in the audience and you see someone, you don't think anything about it, then you turn your head and look back and then there's no one there. Like that could mess with you a lot. I mean, that never happened to me. I mean, you could talk to other music majors and see if they had anything weird that played in it more than I did. I was a guitar major, which is kind of like the bottom of the totem pole. As far as being able to play in Van Meter, we worked the orchestra or the choir, or all this like symphonic band, jazz band, or whatever. But I mean, it's in the back of your mind, like at least for me, because I love haunted stuff. Like I'm always really open minded and just kind of looking around and just kind of see what all might be happening.
Okay, there is a place where I'm at here locally. It is in Brandenburg, Kentucky, and for those of you that are local or whatever, make sure you go to it. It's called Jailhouse Pizza. The former Meade County Jail is the site of this pizza place, and they do ghost tours and yada yada yada. And of course, with COVID, I don't know exactly what their hours are, or if they're even open right now, because I think they may have closed. That is one place I would recommend. Of course, they've got the old electric chair, supposedly. They've got the hangman's noose, so you can walk upstairs, and they've got the little drop. And of course, they've got a nice thick plexiglass sheet over the drop, so you can actually stand over it and look down and see the drop, which is really crazy.
That's creepy.
And of course, they say they do ghost tours and everything else, but it's always a little. I don't know if it's psychologically one of those things where you're like, it's haunted, or like that sixth sense tingles kind of going off, and you're just like, eh. But there are a few places I would like to go. I think Waverly's the number one for me.
Oh yeah.
For ghost stuff, I think Waverly's got to be number one.
Yeah, I mean, it's considered one of the most haunted ones, but another one too, I don't know if you know about it, is Bobby Mackey's over in Wilder, Kentucky. Like, I know
Yes.
the Ghost Adventures people, like, that is a place that they will probably, like, they try to stay away from as much as possible from the experiences that they've had out of everywhere in the America and in the world that they've gone. Like, Bobby Mackey's is considered, like, a portal to hell, basically.
Yeah, I've heard that. I actually have seen a lot of episodes on Bobby Mackey's, which it cracks me up that Kentucky's got this portal to hell, or whatever you want to call it.
I mean, of course, it's in the eastern side. That makes sense.
Yes, and of course, there is another one. Yeah, okay, I don't care what you say, but Eastern Kentucky is basically another state.
It is. It's West Virginia Part 2. It's
It
like a
is.
boogaloo.
It is, and I mean, I completely. Sorry, Mr. Hilltopper's still writing. Okay. But anyway, Eastern Kentucky is such a different part of the state. Like when you go over there, like it is completely different from the West.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, there's hills everywhere, whereas on the west side it's like flat.
Well, okay, so my wife has never studied this. But when I remember when I went to school, we did Kentucky geography. Did you study this when you were in school? In like elementary school? They had these
I don't
old
remember.
books which were like 100 million years old. Uh, and it was Kentucky geography. And for instance, like Bowling Green, Franklin, Allen County, that's all in the Pennyroyal geographical location, which
I
is
do know
rolling
that.
hills. Where I'm at here is called the Knobs. The Knobs is where there's like a single hill. The hills are very unique. It's not anything like what's in the Pennyroyal, which has always blown me away. Like the closer I move towards 65 from my area, you see these hills more often. And then of course, once you get on like say Bluegrass and you head on into Lexington or somewhere like that, it changes into the Bluegrass region, which by the way, it's not completely blue. It's just really green.
No.
But apparently Mr. Hilltopper worked the TB hospital haunted house and he said it was crazy. Hey, I've heard of people seeing things at Waverly, and I had a friend who he owns a rock drilling business, and his son worked there at the hospital with a project they did, and he's like, I never saw anything. So I don't know.
See, that's something I want to do like post-COVID. Whenever I get the vaccine, I just want to go on a road trip of Kentucky and go to all of the weird spots. Because I know that there's so many. That's what I love about this state is that almost every single town has something ridiculous like that.
Oh yeah.
Just some random folklore thing. Like that was one thing that I did when I was in quarantine with COVID. Was just watching all these different folklore things, and like one of them is Hellier, which is the one that was taken over in Eastern Kentucky and Hellier, Kentucky, about like these goblins or whatever, and just all these other weird instances within the state. So that's something I want to do. Start in Franklin and with the Thomas Mantell UFO incident and Octagon Hall, and then work my way up through the state to all these other crazy places. I'll have to do that.
That actually does sound like a blast. Of course, okay, so I pulled up a list here of haunted places in Kentucky or haunted places near me, and Eddyville Prison's one of those that popped up.
Oh, I remember that.
I had a cousin that worked there at Eddyville. Now, I don't know if there's like a new prison or how that worked because he's no longer with us, so I can't ask him. But I would love to see that. I'd love to go in there. It looks like it's a very old architectural style from the picture I'm looking at here, but it looks really cool. Mm-hmm. I think I'd love it. I'd be on edge, but
another place in the state is the Perryville Battlefield. That's another one too. I remember like the Ghost Adventures people going to and hearing like a cannon going off at night, and there was obviously like no one around, so that's kind of spooky.
Oh, sorry. There is one. There's an old Talbot Tavern in Bardstown. I didn't know this. The oldest tavern, or maybe the oldest tavern in Kentucky, was built in 1779 on Stephen Foster Avenue in Bardstown. Mm-hmm. It's supposedly haunted as well. The building looks really old, so I can concur that it looks old. I cannot concur if it's haunted. And of course, as someone who works in my business, I don't know. I can believe that maybe their energy is put off that causes something, but I cannot believe that someone's ghost is trapped here. You know what I'm saying? It kind of just sounds depressing to me.
Well, I mean, you would be an expert more in that field than just the average Joe. So you have a lot more experience with dead people than I would. At least I hope so.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. As far as that goes, I will say something that is a must-see for you weird people out there like me and Jared. Cave Hill Cemetery in Louisville. Do you know where? Do you know what Cave Hill Cemetery is, Jared?
No, at first I thought you were gonna say like Mammoth Cave Baptist Church. That's another creepy place that I've been to, and like there's a couple of really really old churches within the Mammoth Cave area that are haunted. Like there's Joppa Baptist and there's the Mammoth Cave Baptist where Floyd Collins is buried at. Like both of those are considered like haunted locations within Mammoth Cave.
Cave Hill Cemetery is the cemetery where if you are anybody in Kentucky, you're buried there.
Oh, okay.
Minus a few, minus a handful. Colonel Sanders
That makes sense.
buried there. Muhammad Ali's buried there. Okay, this says the Frito-Lay magician. I don't even know who that is. But this, if you look it up on Google Maps, the cemetery is ginormous, and you can get turned around so easily in there. My wife and I went to. We were kind of right before the baby was born and everything. We kind of had a little, like an anniversary thing on like a vacation, mini vacation thing, and went to Louisville, had dinner, and went to. There was a reptile expo, so we went to it. And then she wanted to go see Cave Hill Cemetery, which I had already been to it once, but I did not realize, of course, driving across Louisville because we were in the southern part, had to go up to basically downtown Louisville, and then started through the cemetery. And I did not realize that it closed at 4:00 in the afternoon. So if you do go visit it, make sure you get there in plenty of time. But it is huge. And of course, the grounds crew or whoever it was like, you need to leave. So I start driving around and I'm like, I don't even know how to get out of this place. This place is huge.
So then you'll become one of the residents if they do that.
Oh my gosh, I'll just be stuck there. They'll find me the next morning and I'll just be like, I don't know where I am. I'm lost. But yeah, it's really interesting. As far as the history of everything goes, I mean, it's amazing. But anyway, guys, check out men's basketball. They play Saturday and Sunday. Women's play Saturday, Sunday. CBS Sports Network on Facebook for the guys. ConferenceUSA.tv for the girls. And follow Towel Rag. Jared's writing pieces every day. Don't forget to write that 50th anniversary piece like you were talking about.
Thank you.
And as always, guys, go Tops.
Go Tops.